It's really weird because I don't know if your finger is like this, but I mean, I don't know if you can really tell, but there's that little part right there where you just sit your phone. Like, and there's a little
Yeah.
indentation because I have like a
Yeah.
callus,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
where you sit your phone. Like it's and that a lot of people have that. It's so weird how like it's literally changing our body.
It's
Like, because that
deforming. Yeah.
indentation doesn't go away.
No, it does not go away. And yeah, I mean, you think carpal tunnel syndrome and you think people like this typing all,
Yeah.
but it's now
But now,
developing because
yeah.
people are like this, the double
Yeah.
thumbs. I have weird indentations on my fingertips because I don't text with my thumbs like most people. I'm still this. And
Yeah.
so this my right index fingers all kinds of fucked up on the top because it's just boom 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 boom.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Everything's Okay, a mental health podcast brought to you by the one and only Crazy Ant Media. This is the podcast where we start off with a topic and then it might lead into deeper conversations about different aspects of mental health and everything that has going on in our journey. And it's very interesting because today it's just going to be myself and Dustin, and we're going to be talking about social media. Man, oh man, we have been using social media since it's been invented, basically. I know you probably have as well. But we've been using it as a company and as a promotional platform and for business for the past 7 or 8 years. And that definitely weighs on us a lot, right? And I feel like to try to balance personal and try to balance professional, I must say, I must give our flowers to our social media gurus. They definitely help a lot when it comes to running all of our social medias. But that doesn't mean that we don't run ours ourselves and then step in at some point in times and run the other ones as well. But I mean, I know for me, it can definitely be a mental constraint because thinking about all of these different things to post and then putting it out there and to try to get the reaction from the analytics and the people who you want to be following you, the people you want to interact with, it's just a lot to dive into, right?
Yes.
Yes.
um, yeah, I just I almost went the route of Tom. If anybody out there as old as I am, you know exactly what I'm talking about. MySpace, what the fuck?
Yes.
MySpace started way back in the day before there was a Facebook. And it got so overwhelming and so just kind of that the creator of it exited. Like, shoop,
Yep.
I'm out of here. And that's the joke I'm referencing there. But yes, it gets a little overwhelming at times. And I'm as much as we do this, what we do, these podcasts and films and all the stuff that we do, I'm a very introverted person and I'm very private. So much so people that I don't want to find me can't find me. And so social media is like, oh, I'm going to just put this out there. So I have private accounts. I have our business and personal account, professional account that's public, but then I have my private stuff too. And yeah, for me, I think that it it starts off that you're kind of rocking and rolling, and then you fall into these, like, life gets in the way, and then you forget to make a post, or you don't have one planned, or you get an interaction that you weren't expecting, and it just starts to play on you a little bit, and then you don't want to go back to it right away, or because you missed one, you feel like you have to post 30 that day, so I think that just early, just scratching the surface of it can play on your mental health so many different ways, whether you feel like you're failing at it, you're not good enough at it, whether you feel like you're overexposing yourself and sharing too much, and there's so many people out there that suffer from anxiety or different type, things where they're awkward in social situations, and I feel like social media is a nightmare for people like that because oh my gosh, I made a post, and even though I deleted it like 4 years ago, now I'm thinking about it and who saw it and who's going to get out there and who's going to know this and who's going to know that. And I think on our side of it with the business and the professional side of it, it's the same type thing. Did I make a post that might have offended somebody that we may need to work with down the line? Or did I say something that went off our brand and now people think we're a certain way so you're very guarded, right? You come into it with a lot of walls set up and a lot of boundaries set up. And that's not always, boundaries are good, but when boundaries become walls, and you're isolating yourself because you're so nervous about what you're doing and you're trying to protect every move you make, it gets you into trouble. And so I feel like social media is definitely something that can get yourself in trouble where you start to second guess yourself all of the time. And I think if I have anything, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, oh crap, did that come across the right way? Did I just say something that just pissed somebody off? I start to get in my head that way.
Yeah, remember that one time that we posted about, we would like to see, I think it was, I don't even remember, but it was a black actress, and we posted that we would like to see her as Ironheart. And then
Yes.
we kind of went mini viral with what they call Black Twitter, saying that we were racist and how whitewashing was such a big thing in Hollywood. And we're like, hey, we did not come at it from that standpoint. We
Right,
came at
right.
it from because she's one of our favorite up and coming actresses, and she would be amazing in this part. But I mean, even if we would go to try to defend ourselves, there's no back when it was called Twitter. There's no trying to reconcile that when it comes to social media because there's always going to be that space of well, I have to have the last word because social media, I definitely feel like a lot of people feel like they have to have the last word because you can
Right.
go back and forth with somebody for days.
Right. And yeah, well, it was Amanda Steinberg.
Yeah,
I
I don't
can't.
even remember.
But yeah, because we had just seen her, and what was it? Said they came at us because she's too light skinned. They thought she
Yeah,
was too light skinned to play Ironheart or whatever. But yeah, it's that type things. They came at us so nasty, trying to imply that we were thinking one way or another about what we meant by it. And that's the danger of social media because there is no inflection like when you're talking, there is no animation as if you're in person. It's just words. And so
hmm
it's interpreted any way anybody wants to interpret it. And they don't know you. They don't know how you meant what you were trying to say or where you're coming from, your background. Because let's be honest about it, almost everything on social media is always upbeat, positive, and
it is.
forgive me, fake. You're living
Yeah,
in a world where that you only want people to see, not the reality of what the world really is. But on the flip side of that, like us, our intention for why we wanted that actress or whatever, people just made their own assumptions without even asking about who we were, why we said that, whatever. So yes, that's the real danger of it. I feel like people feel like it's keeping up with the Joneses, that you have to have this most epic, amazing life like somebody else that you're following on social media. And if you're not doing that, you're somehow failing. And then you're right. I think, and it goes back to a previous episode that we have about the work life, personal life balance, because trying to figure out, and I think we both have fallen into this, as I'm sure so many others have who are balancing both. You find something that worked on your personal and you're like, oh, maybe and then you post it and it's like crickets on the business.
yeah,
And you're like, but wait, that worked so well, or vice versa. Right? One worked, so you try it on your personal and it just crickets. Nobody's responding to it. And again, that starts to factor into your head. It's like, well, I don't get it. So some of these people follow me on my business one and some of these follow me on my personal and they loved it on my personal, but why didn't they like it on my business? And so do they really not like my business or or vice versa or whatever? And it's hard not to have that get into your head. And
yeah.
now it's become such a barometer of how you are judged. It has leaked into our industry to where we've had casting directors and producers, and at the recent event that I was at with studios, they even admitted, look, we don't like it, but it is what it is, and we do look. We do look to see how many followers you have. We do look to see how much interaction you get. Do you just have a lot of followers and nobody, talks to you? Nobody comments? Then did you buy those followers or are those real people? They're looking at that now. And that can be a stressful situation. Because what if you're a smaller company and you don't have a lot of followers, or you're a smaller actor and you haven't gotten that yet? Then it's like, do I buy followers because they're looking and I need to have a lot? Do I can't? And you just start going into that circle of just, right? And it's so dangerous.
It really is, yeah, because it's one of those things where we just started a new social media, a new Instagram and Threads page for our upcoming film, The Lesson Plan.
Yeah.
By the way, be sure to follow that, the LP Film, on Instagram and Threads. But it's one of those things where, we've interviewed multiple people on this podcast, on ITCAFpodcast, and we send the new film page to the people who, we've been friendly with. We've been, very upstanding individuals supporting what they do. So you would figure in return they support what we do, which in some return that does happen. They'll give it a follow, they'll give the photo a like or the video a like, what have you. But then there's certain situations where like they'll like the message and then I feel some type of way because they didn't follow or like the photo. And I'm like, at the end of the day, this is so stupid. Like, why am I getting like offended because they didn't take the time to follow the page? It's like, it's kind of a double-edged sword because yes, it's not that big of a deal that they didn't do any of those things, but also it's not that big of a deal if they do or don't. So, I mean, it's one of those things where like we are so wrapped up in analytics and algorithms and likes and follows to where like it really is an emotional roller coaster. Every time you kind of get on your phone or every time we post something to a page that we're expecting to get a lot of interaction from, and that's really all we want. We just want to build a community. That's it. We're not looking for like, oh my God, viral, viral. No, we just want to build a community that we can have conversations with and like talk about our films or talk about the podcasts. And, it's nothing crazy. But I mean, social media can be a very dangerous game, like we talked about in the last episode. I mean, online bullying is such a crazy thing. And I mean, slander is such a crazy thing because in our history, we've been not, I don't want to use defamated, but I mean, we have been slandered on social media a few times because of creative differences. People let, creative differences or difference of opinion get into the workplace to where they just talk badly about people online to where they don't have to confront their problems in the first place face to face. And it's such an unfortunate thing because we're all emotional human beings. We all have feelings. There could be a situation where people overreact and then you want to apologize, but you can't because, you feel like it's weird to approach people in real life. So you want to do it online, but then you can't do it online because they blocked you. And like all of these things to where we've said, we've started new social medias and gotten slandered from other people to where like, you let the dust settle, you let everything pass, and you're like, bygones be bygones, no skin off my back. But it's still like one of those unfortunate things where you're like, man, I wish that situation would have turned out differently and might have turned out differently if there wasn't social media involved.
No,
right?
That's absolutely true. And it's so much with what you just said about a bunch of stuff there. I feel like people do, especially people who are, and I don't want to tag people a certain way, but I'll just say people that are not comfortable in social situations.
Yeah.
They will not have that difficult conversation face to face. They would rather hide behind the guise of social media and attack from there as opposed to having a reasonable conversation face to face because they're just not comfortable in that situation, which can lead, like you said, to having it go beyond what it ever should have been. Whereas if you had just had the sit-down conversation face-to-face, again, there's an inflection there. There's an emotion there that is not conveyed in the words back and forth on social media. So you can feel the genuine, emotion between the people of where they're coming from or not. So yeah, it can definitely do that. And the example of like what you said when somebody doesn't like it or somebody, they like a certain thing but don't follow you or whatever. Right. A great example of that is, and why it shouldn't matter, and I just bring this up because it was one of those odd things that it just goes to show that it really doesn't mean anything. So when we did our last film and we were funding it and we were doing crowdfunding or whatever, an individual that follows us but had never interacted didn't like anything, never reposted anything really, never commented, an occasional here or there kind of a thing, was one of our biggest donators to the project. And so it's one of those things where if we had just taken it like, well, they never interact, they never comment, they don't really, we would have just said, oh, they must be awful, they don't like us, we should block them kind of. And they ended up being extremely supportive of what we were trying to do. And you have to like start logging that, going, maybe they're just not okay publicly doing things, and so they don't have this big presence, but they're there and they're support. So, and isn't it weird? We've come to this, and we talk about this in mental health all the time, about your circle and surrounding yourself with the right people. And sometimes that we it's almost like the followers, if you will. You try to get so many followers and have all these kind of things, and I feel like in real life a lot of people try to have as many friends as they can have, even though they know that 80% of those people are people that they don't even want to hang around with. It's just I have friends. Yeah, look at me. I have all these lifelong friends, or I have all these friends, and they never talk, or but it's about having friends. And it's that expectation of what others put on you about, why are you always by yourself? Why do you only have a couple of friends? Why do you have the, well, who cares? It's the expectation, right? And where I'm going with this is, it's funny how it's become very easy to block people on social media, yet we cannot block toxic people in real life. For some reason, we just let that toxicity hang around us and eat at our mental health and cause us all kinds of drama, because we can't in real life push them aside. We can't just block them and pretend they don't exist. And we've fallen into that because of social media. And we need to get back into, for mental health's sake, understanding the difference between what is on social media and what's represented there and what's real life. Because I feel like when we start living in that world of we're basing our successes or our likability on what we have or don't have on social media, we forget how to interact in real life. And that starts causing problems. And once you start causing problems with family and friends, and are you liked, are you not liked, are you successful, blah, 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 in real life, then you're in all kinds of trouble. That leads to big mental health problems. That leads to depression. That leads to, and yeah, and I'm not saying that social media doesn't either, because there's been many a times where I feel like I retreat and I'm kind of depressed or mad at myself because I feel like I'm slacking. Oh, I didn't post today, or I didn't get enough posts today, and such in the company did great and awesome, and I feel like I haven't been on there in a week. And that eats at you, and you start to feel like you're failing, or you're not letting people, you're not living up to what people expect from you, and blah, blah, blah. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen on the social media side as well. It's just, it's both. And I've had plenty of mental stress over social media leak into my real life, and just because of social media. And it's like, learning to try to navigate it all is a little bit tricky. It's a little bit tricky.
It really is, because I mean, we research this stuff. We try to do as best as we can when it comes to our company pages and our professional pages, and
Yeah.
like the ever evolving algorithm is something that I feel like only a slim number of people get figured out. So it's one of those things to where now, like, at the very beginning, we took social media very seriously.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have great numbers on social media, but I feel like with the ever evolving algorithm and everything else that we have going on at the company, our products are not social media. Social media is just a marketing tool, but we used to treat social media as our product.
Yes.
And that's not it.
Yes.
We are filmmakers, we are podcasters, we are business people. We are not influencers. So over the past, I would say, year and a half, out of like our 7, 8 years Tinder, it's crazy that it took us that long to figure it out.
Yeah.
But we've just been like, what works, what doesn't, what doesn't. You know,
Yeah.
we're putting out stuff every single day. We will continue being consistent so people can see that, you know, we're still here, but it's not worth the headache. It's not worth the money that some people put in to buy followers and to buy likes and all of that. That's just ridiculous because, like I said earlier, we just want to build an organic community that we can talk about films with, that we can talk about our podcast with, or mental health. It's nothing that is going to make or break us. I feel like, as far as the business goes, and I mean, this is nowhere near true for personal, but as far as the business goes, as long as other people see that you have an active presence, that's all that matters. But personal, I would love to take, you know, freaking a month off, a
Yeah.
week off.
Yeah.
Like, that's why my upcoming honeymoon, like, I'm leaving my phone here, and I'm kind of nervous about it. I'm anxious about it because, like, not just the social media aspect, but this the actual act of picking up my phone. Like, I'm not gonna have that. So I'm gonna have to, like, I'm really since making that decision that I'm gonna leave my phone at home, I've really been going back and thinking about what life was like before having a phone. How did I
Yeah.
keep myself
Yeah.
entertained? How did I do this? How did I do that? So that's what I'm really trying to navigate right now. Of course, I'm still gonna bring my DSLR camera and I'm gonna bring my computer so I can edit that. But we didn't buy the internet package for the cruise, so we won't have any, you know, connection that way. But yeah, I'm very curious to see how I'm going to attempt to unwind. I'm hoping that it just doesn't make me more anxious, just
Yeah.
not having that thing that I've been used to since I was
Well,
13. That's like so many years, and
it
I know it's been longer for you.
because
Yeah,
it's become life,
it
right?
has.
Like when we talk
It's
about
muscle
social
memory.
media, we think about pictures and videos and stuff like, but
Yeah,
it's so much more than that. It's social media is now where people get their news. It's where they
yeah,
get their health. It's the go-to source for where you get all of your information. So if you don't have that phone, you feel like you're not connected to the world. You don't know what's happening. You forget that there's other ways to gather news. There's other ways to figure out what you're trying to figure out. But it has become so attached to the phone and social media. You're right. Yeah, it's a difficult thing. While it's a convenience, right? You realize, and then again, the mental capacity of that. Like I remember a couple of trips ago, everything's on my phone. I left my phone in the Uber. The mental freak out, literal mental breakdown I had about holy shit, what do I do now? Like,
right.
there was no just walk up to the counter and have them print an actual ticket, use a landline to let somebody know where that you're going, that you're going to be late potentially. There's so many, but no. It was all the phone and now I'm stuck and I don't know what to do. You quickly realize that your entire life is now wrapped in that phone and social media. And it was very eye-opening for me. It's like,
I
holy
bet.
shit. And I disconnect. I take those
Hmm.
times where I go off grid and disconnect. And I was still having a mental breakdown when I lost that phone. Like, so it's very eye-opening when you realize, shit, how long have I been like this? How long have I
Right.
centered my whole life there? And
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty terrifying. You know, I like what you said though. It's a good marketing tool, right? But I find that where I've kind of learned to relax a little bit and learn to not have it stress me out so much now is I look at it as a communication tool. I
mm,
think it's a great way to communicate and network and build connections. I don't look at it anymore as let me show you everything I'm doing in my life with all these amazing pictures and videos. Let me show you what blah 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 blah. I am now using it primarily. Now, don't get me wrong. On my private stuff, I'm still like, hey, look at this kick-ass casserole I made or what. You know, I'll still post fun pictures like that about sharing with my life a little bit what I'm doing. But professionally, I've stopped so much focusing on that, and I'm more focusing on how can I use this as a tool. How can I reach out to somebody and make a connection that without this I could have never done? Right? Because let's be honest about it. And in our industry, right, people are not always accessible. So yeah, before social media, you weren't just picking up the phone and reaching out to your favorite star. There was no way to do that. If you could even find the publicist or manager's number was a miracle. And then even to get a response would have been like no way in hell. But since social media, you're able to just like slide into the DM or make a comment or and then if one good thing has come out of social media that I think, it's that we have begun to realize that people in the entertainment industry, be it film and television or music or writers or what, we are finding out that they are like just people. They're just like us. And that's why they've become so accessible, because they're, like, yeah, I'll send you a message back. Hey man, what's up? How's it going? Kind of a thing. And then you realize, shit, they're just like, they're cool. They're just like me. They weren't. And so if any good has come out of it, it's been that. It's made, things a little bit easier with the accessibility and the networking and the connections and everything. That said, that's not the end of the story, guys and gals. If you're out there, you have to have that human connection. If you make a connection and you have start a dialogue, take it further. Come away from the phone, get out of the app, and try to have that actual face-to-face conversation. Because if not, you're missing the whole point of use it to connect and then actually talk. Like, it's just... And there again,
you're a perfect example of that. How many like news reporters and how many like different people have you started conversations with over social media to where like you're actually friends with these people? Like, I mean, it's crazy the amount of like personal connections that you have made.
I still am dumbfounded by it, but you're right. I've just been very fortunate to be able to say. And I think the success that I've had in that is, well, one, I mean, we have friendships now just because I think they realize, when you start talking and everything, oh, this is a really cool guy, and we have lots of things in common, and we can actually be friends, and not just a, hey, you talk. But I think this initially, it's when I reach out, I'm just being a person. I normally decide to reach out to somebody or make a connection who connects with me. They make a post that I was having a bad day and something they posted really just touched me. And it isn't about fanboying over somebody or trying to reach out to get something from somebody. It's a genuine emotional connection when I reach out to somebody going, that post really touched me today. I want to let them know that I appreciated that I saw that. And that's where I've been kind of lucky enough to start making those connections. And has it worked really well on the business side? Of course it has. But it's worked even more so on the personal side because, like I said, I try to make it have some sort of a meaning to me. I don't just randomly reach out to my favorite star and go, oh my gosh, your last movie was amazing. Please talk to me. Right? It's not about that. It's not about that. You can send a request for a photograph in a fan letter somewhere if you want to do that. It's not about that.
No, because I mean, some of my favorite conversations are with people on X and Threads. Yeah, I mean, you come across genuine human beings.
You do.
Like, I mean, we came across Spencer Cook. I believe that's his last name. He is the TikToker, pretty big, and we know now we're really good friends. Like, I've been on his podcast a couple of times, and like that's the genuine appreciation of social media and how social media is really cool because you're able to do these type of things. But I mean, it's really weird because I don't know if you're finger is like this, but I mean, I don't know if you can really tell, but there's that little part right there where you just sit your phone, like, and there's a little indentation because I have like a callus, where you sit your phone, like and that a lot of people have that. It's so weird how like it's literally changing our body.
It's like, deforming.
That indentation doesn't go away.
No, it does not go away, and Yeah, I mean, you think carpal tunnel syndrome and you think people like this typing all the
Yeah.
time. But it's now
But
developing
now,
because people are like this, the double thumbs.
yeah,
I have weird indentations on my fingertips because I don't text with my thumbs like most people. I'm still this. And
yeah,
so this, my right index finger's all kinds of fucked up on the top because it's just boom, 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 boom. Yeah, no, it's amazing. And like,
right,
but, I have witnessed firsthand the dangers of it. And sometimes it's not even something that you do.
hmm
And I'm just going to bring up an incident that happened with my daughter several years back. We were at a restaurant eating, and somebody, one of the waiters or something, took a picture of her and her friends and then posted it on social media without their permission, without kind of. And as you guys know, we've talked about this. His wife, my daughter, suffers from anxiety, and she just melted, freaked the shit out about my pictures all over, and what if somebody thinks this, and what if somebody thinks that, and was reduced literally to a puddle. Like, oh my God, what if this? What if that? What if this? And so the mental anguish that she was going through, but then I was enraged. I came flying into that restaurant and was literally ready to kill that dude. I was violent, in fact. I swung open the door, and if somebody tried, I was determined to whoop his ass for violating my daughter. Like any dad would be, but exaggerated to the fact because you're worried about what is out there on social media. Where did he post that my daughter is being seen? What did he say, kind of a thing. So the mental anguish on her and me, and it wasn't even anything that either of us did. This was some other person doing something on social media that now has affected our family and has affected her friends and has affected, So it's dangerous because you're not always aware of what somebody is doing. How many times have we been in a place somewhere and somebody's on social media? You don't know if they've grabbed a picture of you. You don't know if they've
right,
recorded overhearing what you're saying or something like that. And then all of a sudden it's out there. And guys, I don't care. Once it's out there, it's out there. You can delete it. You can try to get rid of it. You can wash it, whatever. It's out there. It's never really gone. And so that mental game plays. It's like, so now you're on guard. You have to be aware of everything you say, everywhere you go. How do you do, because you never know who's watching or listening that's going to put it somewhere. And that in itself is mentally challenging. You don't want to live your life like you have to be in a constant state of guard because you're terrified about what you may or may not say that somebody finds. Jobs now look at social media before they hire you. We are living in a world where we're so completely guarded because of social media that we're terrified that something we did as a reckless teenager is now on social media and we got denied a job because somebody saw the picture. Who hasn't done something stupid and reckless as a teenager? But now it's a viable thing that could prevent you from getting your dream job. And I mean, that's a younger generation thing, right? Because I say every day, thank God, social media and phones with cameras didn't exist when I was young, because I'd have never been able to get a job. I'm just saying. So, but it is now, this generation's dilemma. Because things that they thought were just cute, this little picture by the pool or this, that. Now it's a thing where your potential employees are looking. And how crazy is that? What I can't even imagine what kind of a mental
cool
thing.
thing though, because we do want to be both sides, and I mean you did a good job at that a little bit earlier, because being able to connect with people. But another cool thing about social media though, that is, it'll be interesting to see how this generation, Rick, gets raised. But we just had a baby that was born into the friend group,
Yes.
and this child, his whole life is going to be on social media. We're literally going to have documentation of
Yes.
his entire
Yes.
life, to where like when he's old enough and has kids, his kids can go back and look at all of this stuff, which is kind of really cool. Because I mean, in situations like yours where like stuff was lost to flooding, or
Yeah.
stuff was lost to, fires, for like my mom's situation where she doesn't have a lot of pictures growing up because
Right.
stuff was lost in fires. Like, that's not going to be that way over because of social media,
Yeah.
because of Facebook, because of Instagram. You're literally going to be able to hear these people. You're going to see these people. Like, literally, you, when he grows up, he might even be able to watch his first steps ever,
No.
which is like such a crazy thing. Like, it's
Right?
so wild to see like different aspects of that. And it's like, it's so cool, but it's also very terrifying because in a stalker way, if you're like a Millie Bobby Brown,
Yeah. Yeah.
or like a kid that's growing up now in the industry, like they can watch you all the way up and be like, I remember when you did that, this and that, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And
Yeah.
then the kid's like, what? Like, so it's just, yeah,
Well,
like,
it is, and it is your generation that was the starting of that,
it was,
because
yeah,
my daughter, we got our first digital camera shortly after Emily was born. And
yeah,
digital cameras changed everything. It was
they
still
did.
before social media, but
Hmm.
it became digital where now you had a copy. So if something happened, you still had it. And
Yeah.
and Emily can go from the
Hmm.
moment she was born all the way up until yesterday and live her whole life in those pictures because they
Literally.
exist now. And that was not, like you said, I lost all mine in floods, baby pictures, family albums, baby albums, yearbooks, etc. Now, social media, you can just go find your yearbook on social media and it's like, boom, there it is. And so, yeah, and that's your generation because that's where it started, is at the very beginning of y'all's being born age, right there, late 90s and beyond. You're right. I feel like it is a really cool thing, but then also terrifying because there are bad people out there that will, hey, you remember when you were a baby and you were doing
Exactly.
this or that? I'm like, what are you looking at me when I was a baby for, bro? Like, what?
Literally.
But again, I think, and that's a good way to kind of like bring it all full circle here, full
Right.
circle here. See, somebody will find that and put it out there and say I'm a babbling idiot.
They will, yeah. Be like, he does his podcast drunk.
Yeah,
Like,
what's in that cup? We know he likes his wine. It's coffee, by the way.
Yeah.
No, but to kind of bring it full circle, it's like anything. Social media is like anything else in the world.
Hmm.
If used properly, it's a beautiful, wonderful thing. If abused and used negatively, it can be the worst thing ever. But that is true with anything in life. That is
Yeah.
true. And I think if people come at it with that approach, you're going to be okay. You're going to get past it. You're going to stay away from any mental anguish that it may or may not cause you if you just realize that. Use it responsibly. Use it for good. And don't do stupid stuff. You're going to be all right. But again, like I said, that's just true of anything in life. So,
Yeah. Well, here, I looked up, I went to good old Wikipedia, and we know how reliable Wikipedia is, so take this for what you will. It looks like timeline of social media. So they say the first ever social media platform was invented in 1973. You may have found this more familiar than I did. Talkomatic. Do you know what that
yeah,
is?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
a online chat system,
yeah.
some sort of way. And
I
then it goes to like 97 with 6 degrees, and then AOL in
AOL.
97, Yahoo
So
Messenger.
I can say this: Talkomatic.
Yeah.
Calling that the beginning of social media is being very generous, okay?
Oh yeah.
It sure it is if you want to call two cups with a string the beginning of the phones, right? Like,
Right.
no. 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 If I had to say it, I'd stick with the 90s and say that AOL was the first launch
AOL,
of
yeah.
real social connection away from face to face,
Yeah.
where you live to hear, you've got mail, and shit, and you were like, oh yeah. And the chat rooms where you could now enter into a room and chat with people about certain discussions. For me, I think that's really where it launched.
Yeah.
And then Tom from MySpace took it a bit further with, now we're going to show pictures and you'll have a profile. So you'll see who you're talking to in these chat rooms or who you're, communicating with. And then, the rest is history from there. But, talk about Wikipedia is being a little generous there.
Yeah, but I mean, scrolling through this, I mean, their exact timeline, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, this is a good amount of, like, it's crazy to think that there's this many platforms that's just out there. Like, it's just, it's absolutely wild.
Well, when you think about it,
it's one of those things where it's ever evolving. I don't think social media is as big as what it used to be, like back in, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Because it's definitely one of those things where nobody's on every single app anymore.
Yeah, no.
They have their favorites and stick to it. So, I mean, that's one of those things. But yeah, it's very interesting. And I mean, it'll be interesting to see where we go from here.
Look, like I said, bro, it's I've been very fortunate with social media. I'm not even going to lie to you. Like, I became friends with and in fact, legit, the first in-depth conversation that I ever had with, and I'm going to just say it because I was still young and reckless, kind of immature, blah, blah, blah. Wasn't really adulting yet. But this was like the first real in-depth conversation that I had with an adult that was like, and it turned into this beautiful thing that I will never, ever forget. And it was in an AOL chat room, which eventually became a phone call, which eventually became, okay, now we're going to see. Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's crazy, bro. It's crazy to think that happened because of an AOL chat room. A friendship because of an AOL chat room. What? Like, and I was in there for Nick and Night, for like the Dick Van Dyke Show for Nick and Night. Yeah, and I mean, and there's Mary in the room, on incognito, obviously. She didn't just pop in and say, "Hey guys, it's Mary." But it's so weird to think of things like that, and yeah, man, it's just, so is there a place for it? Can some great things happen from it? Absolutely. But you gotta just be, I think the biggest thing for me, and I will recommend this book called Face to Face, right over there, by Brian Grazer, Ron Howard's partner. I would recommend that book for everybody because I want to just put this out there to kind of wrap things up with this is, don't forget face to face. Don't forget human connection. Don't forget real conversation, because if you do and you start living solely in the world of social media and apps and online, you're missing life. And it could be very detrimental not only to your mental health, but your physical health and relationships, and just don't forget the real world. And this book is all about remembering how to make face-to-face, actual in-person connections. So, but yeah, that would be my advice for anybody listening to this and struggling with, be it any form of anxiety or mental health that's being caused by depression, whatever it may be that you're going through right now because of social media. One, you're not alone. And as we always say, it's okay to not be okay. You guys are, we're here for you. We see you, and hoping by having this conversation, we can let you know that it's all going to end up, okay, that you're going to be all right. Just, you got to keep guarded. You got to be responsible with what you're doing, and just surround yourself with people that are going to be like, hey, put your phone down and come talk to me. Come go see a movie with me. Let's just not look at that thing for a couple hours, and, man, it's just, whoo.
I know, all the craziness. Well, there's no email this week, but you remember, you guys still can email us at info@crazyantmedia.com, where you can talk about anything you want mental health related. Give us something good that happened in your life. Give us something bad that happened in your life if you want to share it. You can be anonymous or as open as possible. Whatever you want to do, like I said, be sure to email us at info@crazyantmedia.com.
I feel like this is a good topic. Right? I feel like everybody out there's got a social media story. I know you do. This would be a great time to send us an email, even if it's anonymously. Tell you about your worst experience on social media or your best experience on social media. I feel like this is a really good topic for emails.
completely agree. Completely agree. But something that I mean would be kind of cool to end the this episode on is peeking pits of what's been going on in life right now.
Yeah.
I think I want to do pits first, just because you want to end on a positive note. Pits, I guess I've been struggling a lot with, just trying to, now that I'm married, trying to feel like I'm taking care of the family that I'm building, to finally feel like, all right, we got this. To where, like, the economy is really rough and the job market is really rough. So just trying to stay positive about everything, do everything properly, not to frivolously spend. That can be a hard one, but just trying to get all my ducks in a row to where, like, I feel like we're sustaining a living and continuing moving forward, not feeling stagnant. I have the worst fear of just feeling like I'm stuck in one place. I just want to keep moving forward. So I've been trying my best to just not be stuck in one place.
That's a whole nother episode, bro.
I know, right?
That's a whole nother episode, because that pit is what we talk about all the time. That is a societal expectation thrust upon a man to be the breadwinner, to be the guy that takes care of the family, has to be the protector. And that is an expectation that has been thrust onto men by society since the beginning of time. The caveman going out there and killing the animal and dragging it back home for the family. It's not like that anymore. And yet, men still put that pressure on themselves to be the provider, and they put undue pressure on themselves as a failure if they somehow cannot. So, I'm right there with you. I too experienced that. And when a child comes, it's even worse. You feel like you've got to spend 60 hours a week working somewhere and never see the family that you're trying to take care of. Exactly. And then feeling guilty that you never see the family that you're trying to take care of. I've been there, my friend. So just remember, don't. It's okay. It's all right, if it's two incomes coming in, if it's one income coming in and it happens to be hers, who the fuck cares? There is no right or wrong. It's, are you good? Is the family good? Then that's all that matters. My pits, and this is just, I feel like a life thing for me, bro. And I can't get away from it. There has been a lot of death around me lately, be it in my own family or somebody that I know that has passed away, or somebody that somebody I know knows that passed away. And it's terrifying, bro. It's terrifying. And it's been my whole life. Death has been an issue for me. Anybody who's listened to this podcast knows. Anybody who knows me in real life knows. It's been an issue for me. And, it's still right there. Just this week, my mother lost her best friend, somebody very close to her, and just seeing her try to process and go through that pain. And I felt bad because I walled off. She's trying to convey how sad she is to me and how much this has disturbed her. And as her son, I just want to give her a big hug and be there for her and everything. But I have a problem with death. I have a hard time processing it, and I wall myself off. This is a thing I continue to work on. I am trying to work on that. And I felt very cold. I felt like I was cold to her. Not intentionally, but I just felt like. And then today I found
feel bad about it.
And then I feel bad about it, right? Because I want to be there, but it has nothing to do with not being there or not sympathizing or understanding or empathizing with her. It's, I can't deal with it. I can't deal with death yet.
It's you physically not being able to.
Right. And then today I find out that Emily's mom's niece, who at one point was my niece-in-law, lost her husband. And even more so terrifying, from a heart attack, which is becoming more and more prevalent. And as a guy with heart problems, this is hard to process. This is like, I can't deal with death. And when you tell me the death is by a heart attack, I'm really fucked up. That's been my pits, bro. It's like just the past couple of months, I've just been surrounded by it. And I'm like, and I was doing so good processing death. I had finally talked about my brother. I had finally talked about my dad. I had gotten that out there, and I had been turning it around. And then I'm just like, oh, that's great. Boom, death, boom, death, boom, death. And I'm like, Oh, maybe I'm not done processing it all yet. So, to be continued. And that's okay. That's okay. It's just something that sometimes you gotta. Mental health is not a one and done thing, it's a continuous process. And so, maybe I'll be dealing with learning how to process death and loss my whole life. Maybe.
Yeah,
And that's
that's why
okay.
they call it a journey.
Exactly. That's why they call it a journey. All right, let's uplift the positives. What do we got going positive?
Positive. Well, with Crazy Ant recently going to Gulf Coast on Broadway that supports the Children Miracle Network, which was really cool because all the money that was donated goes to that Children Miracle Network that is in the state. So we're seeing the donations like actively being used. So that was really cool. And to be able to reconnect with old friends that you and I both worked with
Yeah.
at the news station, that was like really freaking awesome. Because I mean, you have worked with projects with him before. And then also I saw my younger sister graduate. So I thought that was an amazing thing. And I teared up a little bit. And like, I had a problem the next 2 days because I was like, oh my God, I'm getting old.
Yeah.
Like, it was one of those things where it was like hard to process life. But yeah, those are two really big peaks right now.
Yeah, well, I would totally agree with you. Peaks are like, and yeah, shout out to JB. Anytime that I
Yeah.
get to reconnect with JB or just interact with, he's amazing. In fact, my very first director ever thing was a music video, and he gave me the opportunity to direct it, and it went viral and went all over the country on Good Morning America and all these news stations and everything. And I just look back and go, would have I ever had the courage to make that step into directing if this guy hadn't said, "Hey, I trust you. I believe in you.
Yeah.
Will you direct this music video for me?" So eternally grateful for JB, and any time that we can interact with him and reconnect with him, it's just an amazing thing. So your peak is my peak there. That's awesome.
Right.
I love that. And then my peaks the past couple weeks or so is seeing friends out in LA. I have just people that I just am eternally grateful for, and any opportunity that I get to see them and just share time with them and have conversations with them, I'm just so grateful and just so filled with joy by it. That's definitely been a peak for me to be able to do that, and I just really appreciate having those people in my life. And I'm gonna say, anytime that we can do what we do and it affects somebody in a positive way, that's a peak for me. And we did this when we found our lead actress for the current film that we're working on. I don't want to share too much because this is her story, not mine. But she broke down into tears and was overwhelmed because she had been having a really bad time of it. And this put a smile on her face and encouraged her and kept her going. And I feel like potentially if we don't do that, maybe she quits altogether on her dream and walks away. So
Right.
anytime that we can do something like that in something that we just enjoy doing, because it's what we love to do, and it's like but when you can affect somebody in a positive way like that, even just for a day, and put a smile on somebody's face and make them believe in themselves, man, it doesn't get a better peak than that. So to know that what we're doing matters and that who we are as people matters, woo, it's a good peak, my man. It's a good peak. And so, I'm loving life right now, man. I'm loving life. Even with all the crazy stuff going on, it's still every day we get to wake up, which is a plus. Every day we get to do what we love. It's a plus. We get to do it with the people that we love and our family and friends, and it's good. Life is
Yeah.
good.
It is. It is. Because, I mean, I was listening to somebody, I don't remember which podcast I was, but they were like, to try to start to change your mindset, even if you're going to a job that you don't like, be thankful that you're going to a job. Be thankful that you are able to be doing the things you don't even necessarily want to do because there's other people in other countries that are can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, specifically what I think about is, and I mean, they're probably happy in their own lives, but I know I wouldn't want to live like this. There are still like tribes. There are still like freaking groups of people who are living in the wilderness, like are wearing their own type of clothing that aren't necessarily adapted to what we call as society today. That like a very Native American type of, environment to where they're living outside. They're living in their own shelters, their tents, that type of thing. Because they haven't like caught up to the world as we know it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wouldn't want to. This is the best time to live in ever because I mean, we have so many things at just the palm of our hands because of social media and our phones and things like that. We have amazing food. All of these different things that people are still living like it's 200 years ago right now. And
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I'm in the situation that I'm in because of, everything that's going
Yeah,
on.
think about all the people that work in the restaurant industry who say they're a cook or something, and while they're cooking, they're able to take a little taste of what they're cooking, or they get a
Yeah.
free meal as part of a perk.
Exactly.
They may hate the fucking job and the situation that they're in, and maybe even people that they work with, but there are people in this world who are starving and have no food, and you get to indulge in some great food while you happen to be cooking and you're getting
Right.
paid for it. So it's hard to say, oh, my life sucks, right? It's like, you're right. There's always somebody else there. And I got to tell you, just as filmmakers, as storytellers, as writers, to be in any environment where there is communication and conversation and stories, it's invaluable. So whatever's going on in your life, there's something there worth value. And so if you just look at it that way and approach it that way, it's a whole lot better. I assure you, it's a whole lot better when you just look at it that way and appreciate everybody and everything. Because, I'm going to take this full circle all the way back to what you said. You don't always know what somebody's going through. So, if you have a bad situation one day at wherever you're at, somebody's coming at you and you're like, what the fuck? You don't know. You don't know what just happened in their life that's got them in that situation. So to just automatically write them off and say you hate them and that they're an awful human being or a piece of shit, you don't know. They could be the best person ever who's having the most shitty day ever. And it's just kind of, so just love people, guys. Just lead with love. Just be there for people. Give them a smile. Give them a, hey, I see you. Well, just that's all you need. That's all we need.
That's it.
That's how this whole mental health game works, man. That's how we all just make it on this journey, okay? Because we're here for like half a second in the reality gram scheme of things, and if we remember that, and for that half a second, we can just be nice to each other. Just saying.
Just saying. But man, oh man. Thank you everybody for tuning in to this episode of Everything's Okay. Please be sure to leave your comments below. Email us, like we said, info@crazyantmedia.com.
Yeah.
Especially your social media experience. If you've had some good ones or some bad ones, that's definitely worth a conversation. I'd love to have.
I'm waiting for those emails. It's going to be so much fun.
Right. Or email us about anything else you want to share mental health wise. It's amazing. Be sure to follow us at Everything's OKP on Instagram, Threads, and X. And, we got everything going on here at Crazy Ant Media. Staying busy, staying productive, staying positive. That's the biggest thing. The glass is always half full. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for being an amazing individual. And thank you for just continuing moving forward on your own journey because, a lot of people can give up, but you not giving up is the biggest triumph ever.
That's
in
right.
Your own life, in our life, we're very thankful that you're still here. So be able to keep living the life to the fullest, the best of your ability. That's the biggest thing. And I mean, always remember that everything's okay.